Back to you again. Good morning. Continuation of last video because that video was interrupted. Unfortunately happens thanks to Airtel. That signals are broken. I think they are responsible, but I don't know. They are helpless. Maybe what to do. Actually, I am suffering, not they. Same video. Talk to 59. Continuation to 251 59A. Today's second video, and I don't know how much it will move. I was talking of, I was talking of, you know, I was talking of, I can say, a report that was submitted, and as I said, point 17, which says contractor GP. I mean to say contractor is there. Forget name. Contractor requests purchaser to respond within a period of 15 days regarding this report from effective date of electronic mail submission should it take to comment or either to amend entries so that a revision pertinent to this document, if as such to certain comment would require, may be incorporated with, or else this document submission shall be considered and bound as a final reference record. This is one 18 point is this is one of plant operation. This is one of plant operation referral document or part of dossier cover support to track relevant records without holding any contractual reservations. Now it's an index. What is index about? Let us see. It's kind of a small booklet, you can say. Index or contents for contract closeout. Now this is a contract closeout report as a contractor submitting to employer. What it says, this document has been indexed in following parts. Part A is scope on contract agreement. Part B, project title. Part C, objectives and GP observation, objectives and contractors observations. Part D, contract dates. Part E, status on various provisions on contract documents, agreement, conditions, etc. Part E, reference documents on this contract for record purpose. Part G, packing. Part H, statutory. Part I, performance guarantee. Part J, lessons learned. Part K, scope on contract cost percentage breakdown for performance analysis, evaluation. Part L, payment details. And before that, you must have seen in last video all these notes as were covered from point 1 onwards. And this is that, and forward it is, and there is a title here, title page, cover page, which is just you can say project and contractor and employer and their addresses are written. Forward is given, why we are submitting this, reason behind that, what happened, what didn't happen, just in brief a history of project and what sort of document we are presenting here is given in that. And this is your A to L. A to L, you can say again, it says scope on contract agreement, project title, objectives and observations, contract dates, status on various provisions on contract documents, agreements, conditions, reference documents on this contract for record purpose, packing, statutory, performance guarantee, lessons learned, scope on contract cost percentage breakdown for performance analysis, evaluations, payment details, and payment detail is last one, part L. Now these parts are not means you have to write, you can write whatever number, it's up to you. I just use the part 1, you can sequence whatever, it's up to you. Part A, scope on contract agreement. Now we are starting part A. scope on contract agreement. It's very much, we may say, very much required here. Let me close this file because it's unless load on. So, scope on contract agreement says custom clearance. Say custom clearance. This is because it's an importing material from one country to other country, and you can say custom clearance, loading, unloading, transit, insurance, transportation, unloading at site, safe storage site, movement, assembly, erection, testing and commissioning, etc. for complete system, including all necessary approvals and procedures of IBR regulations and approvals of two numbers unfired dual pressure type natural circulations horizontal gas flow, that is called HRSG. Just is for information, nothing to do with this video, which shall operate in between 3 degrees to 3 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius temperature for for this project. Just a little specification of what it is. And technical scope, which shall be per technical specifications mutually agreed provided. And this is system output is HP 110 tons and LP 15 tons for GT performance at 23 degrees Celsius ambient temperature, all given from record. Now, contractor shall be responsible for custom clearance, shall be completed in advance, considering schedule of dispatches of consignments from China and other places. Contractor shall closely liaise with concerned officers and ensure timely submission of required documents at Mumbai Customs or other whatever port of delivery, customs with help of C and F agents, custom and freight agents. Employer clears customs, contractor has to. If employer clears customs, contractor has to pass benefit to employer or either reduce contract price to an extent of expenditure incurred on this account by employer. Contractor shall pursue advanced planning of transportation arrangement by arranging proper vehicles, keeping in mind safety of material, road regulations, RTO requirements, etc. Contractor has to take all necessary approvals, permits for transportation of materials in safe condition till it till it materials reaches till materials product site. Receipt of material from stores. Receipt of materials from stores, transportation to erection site, pre-assembly, pre-erection checks, erection, testing and commissioning, including alignments, welding, bolting, grouting equipment, non-destructive testing per IBR requirements, pre-weld and post-weld, heat treatment, refractory insulation and associated works, pre-commissioning and commissioning assistance and associated tests, temporary piping, valves, etc. Required for hydro test and performance guarantee of HRSG and its auxiliaries for both Unit 1 and 2 per tender specifications reference these minutes of meeting and agreed deviations. All other services which are not specifically mentioned above but such works are shall be required to be completed for entire systems functioning, performance working to be carried out by contractors should be affected. Now part B, project title. This is with the title, so just any can be, don't worry about that. Objectives and GP operation part C. And is to record actual status of performance had been feasible and within contractual control of contractor. To file this report with employer for purpose of official records as required to comply with procedures respecting contract closeout part closeout discharge of contract, whatever title you can give it. It can be contract closeout, part closeout, discharge of contract. Contractor intends to clarify that this status report has been produced based constructed on recorded facts of contract prosecution. Hence, contractor intends to clarify that this status report has been produced based or constructed on recorded facts of contract prosecution, performance stages, and wherever required, relevant references have been included with representations. For GP contract has recorded wherever required its comments or observations and status of performance from clause to clause, conditions to condition regarding respective implementation or pending issues. GP also records that such procedure is a requirement, means contractor also records that such procedure is a requirement where there has been issues pending or where no discharge certificate or no provisional mechanical practical completion certificate or no completion certificate have been issued by employer or client or by client relevant appointed engineer in capacity as contracts authority, contract engineer. In such a non-recording situation, it becomes difficult to track contract performance and relevant discharge from contract's responsibility, which requirements has directed or suggested contractor to file this status report with purchaser for reference only without entitling any contract reservations. Again, I say this important one. In such a non-recording situation, because there is no record, it becomes difficult to track contract performance and relevant discharge from contract's responsibilities, which requirement has directed or suggested contractor to file this status report with purchaser for reference only without entitling any contract reservations. 7. This record refers to all contract provisions, references in black fonts, while contractors' comments or performance status notes have been included with brief descriptions, whereas wherever so required in red letters, fonts for an easy pickup scan by employer readers. 8. Other references as traced out from records have been included at end of contracts references. Considering as a whole, contractor has been an exclusive, successful to deliver contract requirements with successful performance, management's criteria, which are considered basically by performance measurement criteria tools such as time, cost, and quality element, which despite many hardships contractor encounter during all stages of project prosecution, which achievement stage authorizes contractor to self-evaluate for a success on this contract. Part D, contract dates, commencement date is given, and first unit to be commissioned within 12 months, second one is all. Part E, status on various provisions on work order, contract documents, agreement conditions. Contract document is given reference, these documents are there, and in that it's given performed in general satisfactory on contract respecting both documents. Now work order. Work order they use in terms I'm using work order means this actually should be contract. Then it's Article 1. These conditions are of scope of services works. It is says custom clearance. This services contract means custom clearance, loading, unloading, transit, insurance, transporting or transportation, unloading a site, safe storage, site movements, assembly, erection, testing and commissioning, etc. for complete system, including all necessary approvals and procedures of IBR regulations and approval of two numbers, unfired dual pressure type natural circulations, horizontal gas flow HRSG, which shall operate between 3 degrees to 40 degrees Celsius temperature for this project. The same means you have to take from documents, you have nothing to add into this, you just copy and paste here, or you just write, copy, that's it. Technical scope shall be as per technical specifications, that's also mutually agreed, and stream output conditions are there. Contract shall be responsible for custom clearance registering under project. We have taken all this from record. Contract shall furnish all this list of documents which are required to be submitted to customs. Similarly, activity shall be completed in advance as we gave before, and all same para you can say is repeated here. Contract closely lies with concerned officials and ensure timely submissions of all this. And if employer clears customs, then you have to pay back, like this it is. So this is nothing new in this. We just move further. And it says that contract has to take all necessary approvals from approvals, permits for transportation of materials in safe conditions, and receipt of materials from stores, transportation to erection site, pre-assembly, all that pre-erection, jacks, erection, testing, commissioning, including alignments, welding, bolting, routing, equipment, non-destructive, testing requirements of pre-weld and post-weld heat treatment, refractory insulation, associated works, pre-commissioning and commissioning, assistance and associated tests, temporary pipings, valves, etc. required for hydro tests and performance guarantee of this. Means whatever is given on those documents of this scope of work, you can say this. All of the services which are not specifically mentioned above, such works are still shall be required to be complete of entire systems functioning, performance working to be carried out by contractor should be affected. So this is scope of work you can say, and some comments you can give your way, which I am writing here, I written here. Now let us see what these comments are. I am saying contractor very well understands scope of work which is implemented very successfully, in all respects required by contract provisions as well as by engineering profession. Contractor drives pride in its capacity and approach to have completed successfully to present earned status of project progress performance despite restrictions pulled on its way by employer by not releasing regular milestone payments to contractor at right time. Contractor use its resources of manpower successfully to achieve all technical backup activities, testing activities, etc. Contractor successfully arranged all its required resources in time or within minimum acceptable delay time, so that pace of activity could be kept in line to achieve schedule for milestones. Consequently, contractor achieved success on hydro tests on boilers in November, whatever reason, leading to mechanical completion of erection and all clearance on subsequent commissioning pertinent to boilers. Unfortunately, final control and instrumentation testing and commissioning could not be undertaken due to reasons beyond controls of contractor. In Article 2. Article 2, order value rupees Indian this much, whatever, 6 crore something. No comments since this is a fixed price lump sum contract agreement. Article 3, mobilization and demobilization. Article 3 is mobilization and demobilization. We are just commenting it on this. Mobilization was effected successfully, meeting approved schedule and contract requirement. Demobilization could not be effected successfully due to interruption by employer on contract prosecution strategy, which involved incorrect approach by employer by serving on contractor termination notice on this date, which demoralized and discourage contractor in all respects to resume works, and whereby contractor had been scared by employer pertinent future of contracts and relevant outstanding payment dues when unrealistic framed claims had been constituted extremely unfairly by employer, indicating future recoveries from contractor. By issue of termination notice, instructions were included or passed to contractor leave site in line to employer's requirements. Remobilization was not allowed virtually even after special contract meetings to reconcile on this date, since employer did not keep its commitments to release contract due payment to contractor, which issue was included on minutes of meeting, minutes rendered termination, which minutes rendered termination notice virtually void as continuation of contract performance of prosecution had been agreed by and between both parties. Foregoing virtual obstruction to resumption, obstruction to resumption of site works had been due to fact that employer did not agree for follow-up meeting, both demanded and required by by a contractor to chart out issues regarding remobilization to site, resumption of activities, and prosecuting all balance works activities to go to reach commissioning physical mechanical completion status, since employer had its vested designs interests against contractor for its convenience and not for contract requirements or for some other unusual resort to contract action compulsion. Article 4. Article 4 says work completion 12 months from letter of intent and as scheduled both units to be commissioned within 12 months from this date. So I'll just a minute please, I'll get back in a few minutes. Okay, let us start again. It's still working, no problem. Okay, let us move. Come on. Article 4 we were reading. I was reading Article 4 in this case, and it is now here like this. So, work completion 12 months, it's given. Whatever date, it says Article 4. Work completion 12 months from letter of intent, and its comments are reported that employer deployed a contractor subcontractor to carry out remaining portion of erection activities while certain supporting financial assistance to subcontractor amounting to 2 million rupees without settling its payment account or even contractor's payment accounts. This subcontractor too was demobilized from site since project has not been commissioned due to reasons beyond controls of contractor and even employer. No physical completion date has been on record of contractor or of employer, but only calculated dates from date of commencement, completion, contract completion, and indicative mandate from guarantee provisions. Article 5, Payment Terms. Now, what are payment terms? 5% services contract value as advance sum against advance contract performance and contract signing bank guarantee valid till completion of entire works and within additional claims period 60 days. Comments are no comments on this provision since it was implemented or operated without causing any issue. Other one is, actually in this Article 5 we are going to compare conditions, all articles, whatever we can. Let us see how these articles work. Number 2 is 5% service contract value, 5% service contract value to be paid after successful mobilization for work at site against submission of advance contract performance guarantee, bank guarantee, valid till completion of entire works and with an additional claims period 60 days. In this is no comments on this provision since it was also implemented or operated without causing any issue. Then item 3, 80% of service contract value to be paid within 15 days of date of agreed progressive milestone that has been achieved successfully based on submitted statement of work, billing by contractor to site in charge for certifying and later duly approved by employer. Comments: this provision has been a question mark on project prosecution since employer did not make timely payment to contractor respecting whatever payments, invoices, payment statements had been submitted to employer. All such delayed payments or part payments created issue pertinent payment and thereby payment clause had not been operated in line to agreement spirit within contract conditions. Item 4, 10% of service contract value to be paid 10% of service contract value to be paid after successful completion of commissioning and acceptance of entire sum to be released to contractor against warranty, bank guarantee, bank guarantee valid till 12 months. After successful commissioning and acceptance of entire system or 18 months from date of last supply, whichever is earlier, and this guarantee to remain in force for its claims for a period of 60 days after it has been invalidated for application but claim. Comments this payment provision clause is a question mark since practically contract has been prosecuted till defined completion with exception of commissioning activities which activities cannot or could not be performed due to valid reasons beyond controls of employer and contractor. Possible construction activities have been performed, but relevant retention of 10% service contract value payment were carried out or prosecuted contract person has not been released till now. Contractually, employer is bound to release that part of contract value retention money, but unfortunately, employer did not think it right to release relevant contract retention amount. Article 6. Liquidated damages, that's defined LD. Comment not applicable due to no impositions and no such evident records on contract performance. B. Performance penalty. Comments no applicable, not applicable since demanded equipment have been delivered successfully, but equipment operations have not commenced yet due to reasons beyond controls of contractor, leading to no proven document demonstration on site as part of major plant and its trains performance. Article 7. Force measure. Comments no condition as such that may be termed as force majeure occurred on project. Therefore, this article provision does not apply. Article 8. Foreclosure of contract. Article 8. Foreclosure of contract. Comments. No such condition occurred on site that imports requirements of foreclosure of contract by employer. Though at certain stages during currency of contract, contractor's subcontractor vendor inferred temporary obstruction for some reason of non-payment by employer, which impact was later resolved. Incident led to one FIR, arrest of project manager, and some others who were discharged by law courts for no availability of evidences against contractor's personnel. It was a sad incident generally not experienced on construction projects, keeping abreast dignity of professionals and workers. But unfortunately, it happened on this project, which can be treated as a lesson learned by contractor. Article 9. Taxes. Comments. Provisions 9192 complied with successfully by contractor without any complaint from employer or from authorities. Article 10. Arbitration. See, I'm not giving reference to all articles, language, contents, I'm just referring only and commenting on that. Arbitration. Comment is no arbitration has required till date of last work on site, whatever date, workshop date. Employer had issued a termination notice to contractor on this date. Termination notice was responded by contractor as irrelevant and not required at that stage. Termination notice was not responded by contractor. Termination notice was not responded by contractor on merits. So this was based on no facts. Contractor had opted for charting arbitration in case this termination notice was not withdrawn or nullified. Later on this date, during special meeting conducted between both parties to contract agreed for resumption or resuming works with spirit of mutual cooperation together so that project could be delivered successfully. Most significant and demanding issue most significant and demanding issue had been non-payment by employer to contractor. Then comments continue as this is employer promised for its resolution, but it did not take off as such while contractor had been suffering continuously since then. Employer had been continuously pursuing its request to Employer had been continuously pursuing its request to settle contractual issues. I mean, Contractor had been continuously pursuing its request to employer to settle contractual issues for relevance of review and prosecution pertinent balance works to go, but had failed drastically in its sincere efforts. So to carry out post meeting date this much and this much. Article 11 about insurance says all provisions 11.1 to 11.4 and whatever it is affected accordingly and Alright, then we can say all provisions affected accordingly and successfully without receiving any complaints from employer and also no complaints from relevant authority. Then Article 12, compliance with environment, safety and other laws. Comments are all provisions affected accordingly and successfully without receiving any complaint from employer and also no complaints from relevant authorities. Article 13, compliance with labor laws, all provisions whatsoever without contract or otherwise affected accordingly and successfully without receiving any formal or informal complaints from workers or personnel or employer and also no complaints from relevant authorities. Article 14, salient commercial points. Article 14, salient commercial points says contractors regarded subclause in its split and lump sum fixed price operations without causing any issues, pertinent discrepancies within designs or drawings whatsoever it could be. Contractor regarded subclause article pertinent income tax and TDS for itself as well as for its subcontractors. Contractor controlled its management successfully. Contractor controls its management successfully for regard of subclause when its personnel and all other required workforce reached and joined site to commence with work. On top of that, employer disposed all supporting items of structural steel involved to secure safety intact transported equipment, which include heavy steel packings and its relevant structural framing, which by contractual provisions conditions had been owned at first place by contractor, requiring no transfer of title on contract project, since this had to be withdrawn from site for contractors and disposal. All such structural packings items had been disposed of by employer at its intended to dispose. Alright, you can say Article 15, right of acceptance. Right of acceptance. Employer tried to bring in operation of this clause by issuing pre-termination and termination notices. As indicated in the foregoing arbitration article comments, but by bad intention, employer used this clause since contractor had not been at all at default on its responsibilities and obligations on contract performance. As employer failed in its discharge of responsibilities to make defined timely payment to contractor despite dozens of communicate formally and informally, as well as using emails and letters and all other means, but contractor failed to have its payment released by employer. Employer abused this provision to suppress contractor by serving a bad termination notice or not called for professionally in such non-payment circumstances. Which cannot withstand test of law, since payment is very basic criteria always considered in first place when calculating default on contracts. Longer delays on release of performance payment exceeding defined period within which payment should have been released, which in this case is maximum 15 days for 80% of service contract value, makes a strong case against employer who should be considered at top profile defaulter, which situation on contract would provide an opportunity to contractor to constitute additional claims and raise those against employer. Employer exceeding its rights brought to operate provision within this subclause article whatever by utilizing contractor appointed subcontractor to perform works when employer had served termination notice to contractor without even consulting contractor or having its approvals, which state on contract also permits contractor to constitute claims against employer and raise it. Article 16, intellectual property. Intellectual property, since this is a contract pertaining services involving non-design and no innovation activities with certain exceptions, pertinent production of working and shop drawings which are based on original copyright bearing design drawings. There could be many instances on various activities or operations where construction or installation or erection method statements might have been issued. So, Article 60, intellectual property say there could be many instances on various activities or operations where construction or installation or erection method statements might have been issued by subcontractor to contractor and contractor to employer for consideration, and delivering approval to contractor for purpose of prosecution of works, which documents after approvals are as part of on practice, part of perhaps this listed as a part of project and controls. Say why I'm telling you all this. First of all, let me be clear because it's a form only. I'm not giving you something. You have to know it. It's only that. Just trying to tell what format should be. These are certain conditions that we deal on sites. That's why I'm trying to apprise you about those, and what way we can close means every closure is different. We cannot say what I'm saying is same on every project. That's not possible. You have to just think on what to include, what not to include, and how to analyze contract. It's also part of analysis of contracts. Now, there could be, say, as I said in this comment too, there could be many instances on various activities or operations where construction or installation or erection method statements might have been issued by subcontractors to subcontractor to contractors and contractor to employer for consideration and delivering approval to contractor for purpose of prosecution of works, which documents after approval are as part of practice listed as a part of project dossiers for approval and future reference as record documents or record drawings. Comment 3. All such documents would be used only for this plant's operation after closing this contract and after final completion of contract. Comment 4. Whatever documents as such have been constituted and scheduled as part of plant's operations shall certainly enjoy an interference from this subclause article entitled intellectual property rights, and all such clauses would support to that effect. Comment 5. For information, following dossiers, documents had been submitted or recorded by GP by contractor with contracted employer, many of which documents constitute copyright and therefore applicable protection under Copyright Act. Pressure parts assembly drawings, boiler erection drawings, commissioning procedure including ABO, operations and maintenance manuals, all test certificates, pressure parts test reports, boiler mountings, boiler accessories, and IBR related documentary sketches, packages, and boiler folder. You can say, pressure parts, assembly drawings, boiler erection drawings, commissioning procedures, including ABO operations and maintenance manuals, all test certificates, pressure parts, test reports, boiler mountings, boiler accessories, and IBR related documents, packages, boiler. Uh, Then you can say Article 17, that is health and safety matters. Health and safety matters. Contractor implemented as provisions contained within subclause successfully in all respects without receiving any complaints from responsible and relevant authorities, and no such considerable epidemic has been reported during currency of this contract. Article 18, software licenses. This clause cannot be commented. This clause cannot be operated in service of erection contract, since this provision is a part of equipment supplies contract and should be dealt with accordingly. Article 19, patents. This clause cannot be operated in services of erection contract, since this provision is a part of equipment supplies contract and should be dealt therewith accordingly. Then Article 20, general indemnity. This clause operated successfully without causing any problems to either party. Then documents and specifications, Article 21. Explanations and necessary comments. Pertinent contract documents have been included under individual article clause references, which may be read accordingly for certain implications if so required. Technical specification. Now we are referring to technical specification, and the scope is now over. Volume 1, guidelines for preparing bids and commercial conditions. Comments, guidelines were followed in all respects for bid preparations and require no comments at this stage. And B is Volume 2, technical specifications and schedules. All the comments are all the specifications. Then you can say technical specific. We are talking of volume 1. Well, we'll respect. We can say guidelines for preparing bid and commercial conditions. Guidelines were followed in all respects for bid preparations and require no comments at this stage. Volume 2, technical specification schedules. Comments, all specifications have been complied satisfactorily in a broader sense and acceptability while all specifications have been complied. Acceptably while further explanation has been given after other should supply push the specifications. Yes. So in this case, section A, project description, scope, exclusions, terminal points, time, schedule, technical descriptions, proposal documents, 44 pages. Now comments, all demanded requirements were met for compliances respecting scope, exclusions, terminal points and time schedule, technical description with exception of those issues that could not be resolved due to other issues. Yeah. Then you can say all demand requirements were met for compliances respecting scope, exclusions, terminal points and time schedule, technical descriptions with exception of those issues that could not be resolved due to other reasons. And section B, technical specifications for mechanical equipment, is 34 pages. Comments are complied fully and successfully, meeting contractual, conventional, industrial and code requirements. Section C, Technical specifications for civil works 3 pages. Requirements, comments are requirements pertaining to interfere coordination have been met successfully. And section D, technical specification for electrical equipments 11 pages. All demanded requirements have been implemented successfully and in all respects so as to deliver required product, equipment received under supplies contract to work with proficient. Then you can say here 11 pages, then we can say, I repeat, section D, technical specifications for electrical equipments 11 pages. All demanded requirements have been implemented successfully and in all respects so as to deliver required product, equipment received under supplies control contract to work with proficient performance during the life of guarantee. And section E1E in this L technical specification for control and instrument 26 pages. Then we can say all requirements this comments all requirements pertinent to controls and instruments discipline have been met and demanded adequacy and precision so as to have successful working and performing results during plant operations. And section E2 technical specifications used for stream and water analysis system 36 pages. Comments all documents requirements of the discipline of stream and water analysis had been incorporated and then section E2, that is technical specifications for steam and water analysis system 36 pages. Comments all demanded requirements for this discipline for steam and water analysis had been incorporated on project whatever requirements relevant to erection contract. Section F, quality assurance inspection and test 17 pages. Comments are all quality requirements and assurance implemented for compliance with tried attempted addition by value engineering to performance best possible extent with all activities required to be conducted for prosecution of project parts have been effected properly and satisfactorily, leaving no room for whatever non-compliance which would affect adversely on plant commissioning and operation. Similarly, continuation of all this, section G, geotechnical requirements 14 pages, that is comments complied in full to an extent practically feasible and acceptable by specifications or other documents including codes and procedures. Section H, technical data schedule for HR 36 pages, comments relates to supplies contract, but interface coordination for working results affected successfully on equipment's installation. Annex is 6 pages, complied with accordingly is comments, then commercial conditions, then of course. Commercial conditions, there are section A, instruction to bidder, 9 pages, conditions 1 to do, provision 1, introduction, and in this comments are contractor and contractor's partner, owner defines sale, electrical, mechanical, and IC. Then is the commercial conditions, very important one. I think commercial conditions and all pages we may continue. Let us understand what we have done so far. This is a long page. We cannot complete in one go. We have to understand one by one. That's the important point here. Rushing has no meaning, and you can also say that we have to understand procedure is important, something else not there, If procedure is clear, everything is clear. If not clear, it's not clear. This point here. So, what I wanted to have deliberation, that point was a statement of completion or statement of performance, or you can say project closure, how it is done. This is an example, I am deliberating with you. Means it's not simply you write a letter to employer and say you have done it. That's not way of practical engineering. It's different because it's contract engineering. It should be done in explanatory note, in explanatory style, that we know what we have done. After all, we are contractors, we understand contract documents, or we cannot take risk of so many rows. I think it's like this. When we claim something or when we declare something, it's very important that whatever we declare should be in black and white. It should be crystal clear terminology. I cannot keep something in my mind and say I've done it to you. No, you cannot until It's in my mind, it's not for other one. It's contract. Contract is not a joke. It's charter of both parties on that contract. Charter of these both parties. That's charter. We have to understand sometimes what step we have to take as a contract manager, project manager, construction manager, general manager, whatever title we have to deal with on behalf of our employer, maybe contractor, maybe whoever. We have to know what we should tell them. Listen, so we can say in brief, it is very easy to get a job as contractor, and it's very easy to give job to someone by employer. But do not forget that we are talking of contract. We have to understand sequences of contract execution, contract prosecution. We have to understand various conditions. We have to understand various documents, and we have to understand everything. Maybe something is given in this document, something is on the document. So if we know, well, point is, contract cannot be dumped. It cannot be dumped. Even if you perform, you cannot dump it. Means you have to declare. Actually, it's better if employer declares, but the employer shall declare only your submission, contractor submission. That's what submission is like. Uh, So we have to understand this point. It's very important point and we cannot leave it like that. Every engineer has a duty who is working in field to understand this. Even if you are not constructors, you are engineer, you are supervisor of engineer, but you will deal with this, don't worry. It's in fact, you know, very necessary to avoid disputes, and if you are going to disputes also, you must have documentation. Without documentation, nobody can help you. It's not telephonic reference or something, it's original documentation, representation you have to. That's where you can stand trial in arbitration or elsewhere. And if documents are not done, and that's very important point, engineers have to involve regarding just generally misdocumentation, and that leads to disputes further, argument to further multiply disputes. So documentation is an analytical talk, and you have to keep them all time placed in, and then you can create fear in minds of those readers, and that's the only way that we can say we are safe or we are not safe. I think that is requirement of time, and that is requirement of contracts. Contract is very crucial, is very critical work, it is very critical documentation, and its impacts are multidimensional. Contract is easy, it's one document, but its aftermaths, if not properly prosecuted, if not implemented, it leads to many complications, and those complications can be avoided by only those who understand implementations. Just going across without explanation is no meaning at all. Therefore, I can only say, do not avoid contract learning. Do not avoid communication. Do not avoid coordination. Do not avoid quantification. Do not avoid quality. These are all parts of contract. No one would help you. Remember, we can pay to lawyer. What? So, my dear, what I can say is very familiar, that you have to do it, and if you do not do it, you will suffer somewhere. If you want to ascend on ladder of engineering field, it's not technical alone, it is administrative as well that you have to move with. And if you fail to move that way, you will fail yourself and you will fail your employer as well, both. Means you don't know how to do, your employer expects you to know that, and if you don't know somebody you are hired and who doesn't understand construction, doesn't understand project work, that person can't help you, because it's you who know. What language you use, that could be varying, but points are there that only you know. and because you are an engineer, you are not employers as well, not advocates as well. You are usually therefore contract saviors are you, contract saviors are engineers. Disputes can be avoided only by efforts, continuous efforts, because it goes to crowds and in many cases multi. Now you want this disputes or something else, you have to decide. Only you, only you, and only you, engineers. And if you can't, I have no answer to that. I am trying my best to suggest people for this, you can say, for this adoption of contracts, understanding of contracts. And that's what I'll talk to you next time with this continuation of this report, which is now here. And it is this report, that is commercial condition, will talk. Now I'm taking leave from today's talk. Thank you.